Ladies and gentlemen, my political opponent, Mr. Donald Trump, says that he doesn't want crazy.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it seems like old sleepy Joe Biden is a...
Ladies and gentlemen, my political opponent, Mr. Donald Trump, says that he doesn't want crazy people, but he runs on the same ballot as his vice presidential candidate, someone like Fred Flintstone, who one day he's a race car driver, the next day he's working at his construction company for Mr. Bedrock, Mr. Gravelstone, whoever the guy's name is. He's a very famous construction magnate. The next day he's paragliding as some sort of a secret agent for a part of the government that does not exist. Folks, this man, if anybody on planet Earth is mentally unstable, his vice presidential candidate is mentally unstable. He's crazy. But even with this, he has the right to do whatever he would like to do because Bedrock is in the good old U.S. of A. And nobody should be able to tell this man he can't do these things. And that's what Donald Trump is trying to do by opening these insane asylums. People who pretend to be something they're not do not have the freedoms under Donald Trump that they would normally have because he's going to call them crazy and throw them in an insane asylum. Folks, I'm not going to let that happen. I'm not going to allow that to happen. And in 2024, when I run for president again, and I'm young and virile, I don't know what they mean. People have said that they give me methamphetamines for me to stay up, and they give me sedatives for me to go to sleep. This is a lie, and it's propaganda by the Republican machine. I'm as fit as a fiddle, and I'm right smack dab in the middle of my right mind. I know what's going on at all times. And if you don't have to believe me, you don't have to believe me. You'll see when I'm president again in 2024. Thank you for your vote. And people at Bedrock, if you don't vote for me, you're not a citizen of Bedrock. Ladies and gentlemen,
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it seems like old sleepy Joe Biden is the kind of character that likes to make wild accusations, isn't it? He says that I'm crazy just because I hold multiple jobs and the economy that he's created. What else can you do? But folks, you understand, and I understand, and God understands that we cannot have a man like Joe Biden back in the White House. If we have someone like him in the White House, it would just be terrible for all peoples, for all people everywhere, whether they be from Bedrock or New York City or Las Vegas or wherever. I'm telling you right now, people, I'm telling you something you already know because you people are smart. You people are smart enough to understand that it's not who you know, it's what you know. And sometimes it's the reverse of that. Though neither apply in this case, the only thing we have to remember when we go to those polls is, do we like people wandering into our yards saying that they're on a battlefield in the Civil War? Do we like to see homeless people overdosing on fentanyl before City Hall while we're trying to pay the taxes on our home that we fought hard and worked hard to own? I don't think you want that, folks, and I don't want that. And I won't have it. I'll die first. And I'll die before I see one more crazy person walk down the streets of Bedrock talking to their imaginary friend about robbing my house. This is the America that Sleepy Joe Biden has created. That's why I'm on the ticket with Mr. Donald Trump. He promises people a turkey in every pot and a nut in every insane asylum. We're going to open them up. That's our slogan. Open them up. Open them up right now, I said. And if you don't, Sleepy Joe, why, I oughta... Well, ladies and gentlemen, it seems like old Sleepy Joe Biden is the kind of character that likes to make wild accusations, isn't it? He says that I'm crazy just because I hold multiple jobs and the economy that he's created. What else can you do? But folks, you understand, and I understand. And you see there,
Yes, my fellow Americans, folks, listen. We're gonna open those. We're gonna open up those mental hospitals again. We're gonna create jobs. Jobs will be created. Jobs for every American citizen who wishes to be in one of these treatment centers and be at the precipice. You're gonna be at the forefront. You're gonna be on the front lines of this new war. We have to wage a new war in a new way, people. A new way. We got to find a new way to do it. And I found the way. We're going to reopen these insane asylums. We're going to open up these lunatic farms. These people are going to be treated with care. They're going to be treated with respect and dignity. Your Uncle Kevin can wear his dress within the confines of these walls and these beautiful new facilities. It's going to be fantastic. And I know what they're going to say. The liberals are going to say, oh, well, he's talking about Uncle Kevin and his dress. That's all it's about. They're going to call me prejudiced, but it's not. Just like they call me racist. I don't have a racist bone in my body. The man who spearheaded this is a good man from southern Oklahoma. You may know him. I know him personally. We golf together. He has a great golf game. That's a lot. It's something that a lot of people don't know about him. He has a fantastic golf game. Fantastic golf game. He could drive that ball to the moon if he wanted to. There's no doubt in my mind. That's Mr. D, the Baron of Bigfoot Doss. Did you see my guy over there, my Oklahoman black? So I'm telling you, people, that it's going to be fantastic. It's going to be fantastic. Uncle Kevin's going to love it. You're going to love it. And you women are going to love it the most because you don't have guys on the street flashing themselves at you, scratching inside their ass while they walk and talk madness to their invisible friend, which I don't think is an invisible friend, people. I'll tell you the truth about it. I think it's a devil, a demon. You know it and I know it, and God knows it. We got to get them off the streets. I'm going to get them off the streets in 2024. Make insane asylums great again. Yes, my fellow Americans, folks, listen. We're going to open those. We're going to open up those mental hospitals again. We're going to create jobs. Jobs will be created. Jobs.
You can't fool me. I know you're in with them too. Friend, I'm going to send you to the hospital. And if you will cooperate with those doctors, I think they'll be able to do you some good.
The female driver hits the red van, dragging the man that was with her for several feet. Then this happens.
Well, I think it's time for you to have your lysergic acid.
Give me all you got! Give me all you got!
The amount of crazy
It would help if I unmuted, right? Let's try that again. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the original Late Show. That's right, the first one in the cryptid world that was put forth to be a late show. Ladies and gentlemen, there's many questions going around the cryptid community right now. Many concerns, many controversies. And I know we try to keep our noses out of it. We try to be the pre-World War I America about the whole thing. Nobody wants any trouble. Nobody wants any smoke, right? But sometimes smoke we must have. And there's a lot of smoke going around. But I'm glad that we have the Prince of Peace, our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And that's the only place peace comes from. You know it and I know it. So today, in recognition of some of these show hosts and other characters, we're going to look at some cult activities, some cult leaders. We mentioned the Church of the Process, my boy Maryland 187 and myself. We're going to be putting something together that's can y'all hear me? Y'all can hear me, right? Don't tell me I'm talking for no reason.
Testing. Hello? Hello, this is George Takei.
Remember that guy, Sulu? Anyways, there's this group called the Church of the Process. Now, folks, when you hear about this Church of the Process, and you hear of all its members, confirmed members, it's going to make you shit. It's ooky spooky. Church of the Process, they call it. They served a trifecta of deities that they gave equal footing to. Jehovah, Jesus, and Lucifer. That's their trinity of gods, which, of course, we all know what's going on there. They're linking those three together because they're not only lost in the sauce, but rank devils. They come under the auspices of being some sort of Gnostic occultists, and Gnostic means to know. That agnostic is one who does not know. A Gnostic is one who knows, right? And what do they know? They know all this arcane, esoteric knowledge from these mystery schools. It's the modern day mystery schools that we get into. I really don't like me looking like the Funky Phantom. It looks like snow and stuff. Like, you remember those old snowy TVs? It's weird. But in any event, we're going to start with the Church of the Process. The Church of the Process leans all the way into, guess what? A church that is around today, and if you talk about them, this show may get pulled if I mention them too much. Scientology. Scientology was started by L. Ron Hubbard. L. Ron Hubbard, back in the day, was the macaroni that had all the cheese. He stole Jack Parsons' wife. When you look at this guy, he's a big doughy nerd who put out science fiction books back in the day. But he was the macaroni with all the cheese. He got all these lonely, older widow types to basically give him all their money and their yachts. And this man somehow, and I know a couple of you already know this, G Reaper, Vault, Chris Beard, probably, well, all of y'all probably do, but L. Ron Hubbard somehow ingrained his women, his secretaries or whatever from the Church of Scientology in every major intelligence agency in the United States, the CIA, the FBI, and they were able to copy every single file up to that point. This is back in the 60s. That's crazy, folks. This man got away with carbon copying top secret files over the course of I think a decade. So he ingrained his people in the CIA and the FBI. Meditate on that for a minute. This was a science fiction writer who would be akin to who today? I mean, I don't think he was even that popular back in his day, but he was this occult leader. He was very charming, very charismatic. Like I said, the guy was it didn't seem like he was very well spoken, kind of kind of doughy, overweight type character. Which, hey, shout out to the big dudes. I ain't trying to throw no salt on his game, because he had it. That's the macaroni with all the cheese. L. Ron Hubbard, folks. This dude went so hard in the paint that he got all these women to carbon copy all these files from every intelligence agency in the United States of America, and he never got caught. He took one of those yachts that he conned one of these older widows out into international waters, and that's where he lived out the remainder of his days, in a lap of luxury, surrounded by beautiful women. The man was a literal James Bond villain. And I think he was a little bit more hardcore than James Bond villain, because I don't ever remember even Blumquist or Dr. No ingraining themselves so deeply into the American intelligence agencies that they stole all the secrets. This man had everything. Romans 1:16 says he had a lot to do with. Oh yeah, you better believe it. Romans says he had a lot of demonic help, and how. Now, this is what gets in the Church of the Process. I wish I had my notes in front of me, but I'm a gunslinger. Freestyle it. His main girl, right? His girl Friday, ingrained herself so deeply in this Church of the Process that she became the big boss. She was giving orders. And, folks, this lady she was the real deal. She was the one that led that operation. So she wasn't no slouch, and she wasn't no wallflower. She made one of the heads of this Church of the Process because he displeased her in some sort of way. Y'all weren't gonna tell me my button is all misbuttoned? That's all right. This woman made one of the heads of this Church of the Process go and sit outside because he said something that displeased her, and she was mad about it. And she made him sleep outside on the sidewalk until he was allowed to come back in by her call, allowed to come back into their little group and continue with whatever nefarious plot they had going. So let's look at L. Ron Hubbard. He's the first suspect. And they like to claim that they've made a lot of leaps and bounds in psychology, and they try to link themselves to the scientific world, which, if you know anything about Scientology, that's going to be a hard win. There's nothing scientific about it. It's a bunch of madness, in my personal opinion, and not anybody else's on this channel. So when they come after me, they just come after me. L. Ron Hubbard. There's a movie that was made by the same gentleman that did There Will Be Blood. I believe his name's W.S. Anderson or something like that. But it was called The Master. It was this gentleman's last movie. You know what I'm talking about. The big dude. He was in The Big Lebowski. Kind of a fat guy. And it had Joaquin Phoenix in it. And they couldn't use the name. I mean, it's the story of L. Ron Hubbard without actually using the name because they would have got sued from here to oblivion. I'll let y'all look at this while I read this to you. It's just crazy how many people this guy conned into joining up this Church of Scientology. As you know, Tom Cruise. He flies their flag now. I think he's competing with the other dude to see who the Grand Poobah is. And what's crazy about it to me is you can transfer all this stuff that I'm about to tell you onto the cryptid world with so-called leaders that are in the cryptid world. Cult leaders. That's what it is. They're cult leaders. And I'm not going to pick on nobody in particular because we live in an age where men get their feelings hurt like children who had the TV turned off during G.I. Joe. They'll turn and rend you, even though you didn't know that you were laying a fence. So I have to give it to Mike from Abnormal Investigations and Josh Turner. They made peace with one another, and that's a big deal. That's a big thing. So, recognize them for what they've done. All right, y'all ready? I'm ready. Sorry for the delay. No, not really. We're hanging out. It's all good in the hood, huh? So, L. Ron Hubbard. I wonder what the L stood for. Who call themselves L? Lafayette Ronald Hubbard. Lafayette Ronald Hubbard was an American author and the founder of Scientology, a prolific writer of pulp science fiction and fantasy novels. In his career, which spanned over a long time, folks, long time, around 1950, he authored Dianetics, The Modern Science of Mental Health, and established organizations to promote and practice Dianetic techniques. Hubbard created Scientology in 1952 after losing the intellectual rights to his literature on dialectics in bankruptcy. He would lead the Church of Scientology, variously described as a cult, a religious movement, or a business, until his death in 1986. Born in Tilden, Arkansas in 1911, Hubbard spent much of his childhood in Helena, Montana, while his father was posted to the U.S. Naval Base in Guam in the late 1920s. Hubbard traveled to Asia and the South Pacific. In 1930, Hubbard enrolled at George Washington University to study civil engineering, but dropped out in his second year. He began his career as an author of pulp fiction and married Margaret Grubb, who shared his interest in aviation. Hubbard was an officer in the Navy during World War II. That's the part I wanted to get to. Folks, let me tell you something. What you already know. The Secretary of the Navy, back post World War II, started a certain organization within the American government. This organization would become the biggest intelligence agency, one of the biggest in the world, if not the biggest in the world. That started in naval intelligence. You see, folks, it's not all as thrown together and as quilted together as it seems. Once you start reading all these biographies of all these folks that were involved in the Church of the Process, and then you see what their crimes were, you'll start to understand that there is a hand behind all these cults that have been pushed out in front of you in media. There's an invisible hand pulling the strings of all these people. I mean, L. Ron Hubbard, Charles Manson, David Berkowitz, who was the son of Sam Killer, I believe the Boston Strangler, but don't hold me to that. And some would say it even goes back to Jack the Ripper. These people all were a part of the Church of the Process. There's one in the LBL no one talks about. Yeah, that's what I heard. The LBL vampire cult. We'll definitely take a look at that. That may be linked to the Church of the Process for all we know. I have heard of that, actually. Let's get old Elron out of the way real fast, and we'll definitely do a deep dive into that if we can, if you folks don't mind. So, old, where we at with Lafayette? That is a cool name. I wouldn't have changed it to just L, the letter. I would have went by Lafayette Hubbard. And I would have, thickened up a Louisiana accent. And I always have a white cat with me. Hubbard was an officer in the Navy during World War II, where he briefly commanded 2 ships, but was removed from command both times. The last few months of his active service were spent in a hospital, being treated for a variety of complaints. Folks, there's where they got him. They said, okay, this guy's an abstract thinker. We can use him. He thinks outside the box. So he gets these mysterious illnesses and all of a sudden disappears for a variety of complaints. Now let's see how fast it took him after being in the military and going to this hospital for a variety of complaints and being removed. You just don't remove somebody who commands 2 battleships just because he has, gout and a sore stomach. That's crazy. The last few months of his active service were spent in hospital being treated for a variety of complaints. In 1953, the first churches of Scientology were founded by Hubbard. So 1952, he's commanding battleships. 1953, he's opening the Church of Scientology. But that's unconnected. In 1954, a Scientology church in Los Angeles was founded, which became the Church of Scientology International. Hubbard added organizational management strategies, principles of pedagogia, never heard of that word, from the ancient Greek, most commonly understood as the approach to teaching, is the theory practice of learning and how this process influences and is influenced by the social, political, and psychological development of learners. Pedagogy, taken, and blah, 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 blah. So it's the basic principles of learning. What a weird word for that. Principles of Pedagogy, Theory of Communication, and Prevention Strategies for Healthy Living to the Teachings of Scientology. As Scientology, well, I mean, look at there. He's going after the old ancient ways that the Socrates and the Platos and the Aristotles used. The mystery schools. Remember what I said at the very beginning? It's almost like DDoS knows what he's talking about from time to time. Blah, 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 blah. Where's Jack Parsons come in? Let's get to the meat of the matter. Hubbard applied to join the United States Navy. Y'all don't want to hear that. Scientology and the occult. There we go. After Hubbard chose to stay in California rather than return to his family in Washington State, he moved into the Pasadena mansion of John Jack Whiteside Parsons, a rocket propulsion engineer and a leading follower of the English occultist Aleister Crowley. Hubbard befriended Parsons and soon became sexually involved with Parsons' 21-year-old girlfriend, Sarah Betty Northrup. Hubbard and Parsons collaborated on Babylon Working, a sex magic ritual intended to summon an incantation of Babylon, the supreme goddess in Crowley's pantheon. During this period, Hubbard authored a document which has been called the Affirmations, a series of statements relating to various physical, sexual, psychological, and social issues that he was encountering in his life. The affirmations appear to have been intended to be used as a form of self-hypnosis with the intention of resolving the author's psychological problems and instilling a positive mental attitude. Parsons, Hubbard, and Sarah invested nearly their entire savings, the vast majority contributed by Parsons and Sarah, in a plan for Hubbard and Sarah to buy yachts on the East Coast and sell them to the West Coast to sell. Hubbard had a different idea, writing to the U.S. Navy requesting permission to undertake a world cruise. Parsons attempted to recover his money by obtaining an injunction to prevent Hubbard and Sarah leaving the country or disposing of the remnants of his assets, but ultimately only received a $2,900 promissory note from Hubbard. Parsons returned home shattered and was forced to sell his mansion. This dude's a piece of work. But I guess when your best friend's a Luciferian, like, what do you expect? Why? How could they do deals with one another? You know what I'm saying? Like, their daddy is Satan, the author of all lies. I mean, you'd have to have your pistol in one hand and the ink pen to sign the contract in the other one. Now, I'll jump back over it with you guys. Let me tell you. I have it on good authority that the thing that happened in LBL, they got that on my mind now. The thing that happened in desert, which it was Roswell, New Mexico, where they did this Babylon working ritual. And when you know it, they did it on the exact same night of the Roswell crash. Some people would say it's in the very same spot. Now, the rumor has it that old L. Ron Hubbard and Jack Parsons successfully opened a portal that Aleister Crowley opened over there at his house in Scotland, at Loch Ness. But see, the thing is, they weren't Aleister Crowley. This man was seeped in demonic juice. I mean, he did wicked stuff. Threw his best friend off of a mountain. You can listen to it on the channel under one of our Cryptid Hunter volumes when LBJ is talking about it. But that's neither here nor there. They opened this portal, and a spirit came out in physical form. A little girl that called herself Hilarion. Hilarion. Now, what's interesting about that, and you can check me out, folks, there was a politician named Hillary Clinton that was born that very same night. Boy, those coincidences are something else, ain't they? Now, let's take a look at this, because y'all got me interested. I hate to segue, but this is only the first part. We're dipping our toes into the water because the waters are deep. You don't want to just jump in head first. Now let's take a look at the LBL, what do they call it? The Hellfire Club or something? The Monster Mash?
It was a monster mash. It was a graveyard smash.
LBL. So there's vampires at LBL too. I'll be doggone. The Vampire Club. Well, there's more than one. There's one in good old Cornwall, and over there in jolly old England, and of course New Orleans. Let's see. Vampire Club campaign. Gross. Beargrass Thunder. What is this? You folks got to see this. All right. I found something that looks interesting. Gee whiz, folks. I'll stick to the good old KJV. How about that? Vampires. And there's a man by the name of William Schnoblin. He actually became a vampire. He was a high-level Luciferian. He was a part of a bunch of these satanic cults. And he gave you the lowdown. He didn't go into graphic details, and I'm glad of it, but he gave you the lowdown on how these people become vampires. And folks, it's a really sad thing. It really is. Everything that involves this transformation that these people have, there has to be a sacrifice. There has to be blood. And you guys know, just like I do, that blood is usually the blood of an innocent. And it's a sad and despicable thing. Rod Farrell, leader of the deadly Kentucky vampire clan. That was the first thing that popped up when I Googled it up. Rod Farrell was a 16-year-old boy from Murray, Kentucky, whose delusions led him to lead a ritualistic cult and brutally murder a 14-year-old member's parents in their home. He was the youngest person to be put on death row until his sentence was reduced to life in prison with no parole. Roderick did not have an easy life growing up. Well, Columbia River, him and every other American. Don't you hate? I hate hearing that. Like, oh, well, we had such a hard time growing up, so we decided to go murder people, because that makes sense. That's what you call a rank devil and a jabroni. Roderick did not have an easy life growing up. He was born to his then 16-year-old mom, Sandra Gibson, on March 28th, 1980, in Murray. His father abandoned him to serve in the military and was never a part of his life. His maternal grandfather allegedly sexually abused, I guess that's supposed to be a him in there somewhere, allegedly sexually abused him when he was around 5 years old, according to federal court records. However, no criminal charges were ever pursued. Sandra and Rod, now I feel bad for him. Not really, he's a murderer. Sandra and Rod did not have a stable home life, bouncing back and forth between living with Sandra's parents and public housing. Sandra worked as an exotic dancer and sex worker to make ends meet. Sandra introduced Rod to vampires and the macabre from a young age. They bonded over Dracula films and Vampire the Massacred comic books. Sandra was far from the ideal mother and had a questionable and complex relationship with her son. As Rod himself described, at the age of 34, she was even caught writing disturbing love letters to a 14-year-old boy. I long to be near you for your embrace. Yes, to become a vampire. I'm not reading that horse shit. The rest of the Vampires clan members came from equally depressing and disturbing situations. The most notable members being Scott Anderson, Rod's quote-unquote right-hand man, Chastity Kesey, his then 16-year-old girlfriend, all right, I lost my place. 16-year-old girlfriend, Dana Cooper, a friend along for the ride, and Heather Windorf, Rod's damsel in distress and victim. All of them took comfort in being able to belong to a group of outsiders and like-minded people while growing up in a place that is generally unaccepting of anything non-traditional. The gang's meetup spot was called the Vampire Hotel, which was a dilapidated structure in the middle of the woods near Kentucky Lake, in the land between the lakes. It was here the Klan threw parties, used psychedelic drugs, and took part in various types of rituals. I feel like the more I'm reading this, the more I'm starting to read like or sound like Rod Serling. You know what I mean? Is that just me? Because I'm not meaning to do that. But now I'm going to intend to. Just thought you should know. Hearing stories from Heather about suffering abuse at the hands of her father struck a chord with Rod. After Heather had to move away, Rod became obsessed with the situation and ended up racking up hundreds of dollars in long-distance phone bills for the Windorf family. I don't know why I want to make him Winford. The final straw for Roderick was when Heather's parents finally cut her off from the phone. It was then he rallied his group to go on the fateful rescue mission to save Heather from her parents and run away to New Orleans to start their very own vampire family and live happily ever after. Unfortunately, things did not go according to plan. On November 25th, 1996, Rod and the gang made the 750-mile drive from Murray, Kentucky to Eustis, Florida. After she had been picked up and their vehicle had broken down, Heather made a deal with Rod in which she would use her keys to unlock her home so that her family's vehicle could be stolen and the Klan could complete their trip to New Orleans. In exchange, Rod agreed to perform the turning ritual, in which she would consume his blood and officially be a vampire forever. The ritual took place early in the morning. Wait a minute. Time out. Wait. What are these people doing transforming into vampires in the morning time? What's going on? I know these vampires are rank devils, but come on now. These ignorant. Anyways. Somebody help me that. Is that the way it goes? I'm sorry, folks. That was former President Donald Trump telling me that I need to hurry up with the vampire stuff. He said it's, I don't want that type of smoke, he says, so I'll just hurry up and cut through this. Hearing the commotion, the Mrs. Windorf, blah, 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 blah. And they kill the shit out of those people, folks. That's crazy. 4 young lives just thrown down the drain for nothing. I do remember this, though. This made national news. And I've seen people go into this vampire hotel. I recognize this now. This is a big site for satanic mumbo jumbo. They say that the sacrifice, child sacrifice, and everything else takes place right here. You can see all this, all these demonic sigils and satanic paraphernalia. What a wicked thing. I'll tell you what, though, folks. What's up, Stephen Montgomery? It's going as well as it could. What's good in the hood? Folks, I told you can't trust them. And for you, I don't have a lot of young viewers, but for you young viewers out there, let Uncle D tell you something. If you got a friend or a girlfriend or a boyfriend, you young ladies, and they're talking about they're vampires and they want to do rituals and they're wearing black lipstick and all that kind of stuff. That's all well and fine. It's probably a phase, or they probably play too many games of Dungeons and Dragons. But when they start laying harm to animals or start talking that rhetoric about how they want to lay harm to people, all you got to do is smile and go along with it and say you got to use the bathroom. Don't run. Walk to that bathroom, pull out your cell phone, and dial 911 and drop a dime on their ass. Now, I'm not proposing nobody be a rat or a snitch or anything like that. There's a difference between the two, actually. But you'll be saving yourself and probably a lot of other people a lot of trouble. And they probably won't even go to jail because there'd be no crime. But I'll tell you where they'd take them. They'd take them to one of those big, beautiful, insane asylums. And then they would be, you know, go through their daily routine of ice cold baths, being strapped down in the electroshock theater. And then they'll ask them a series of questions about being vampires and whether they want to lay harm to animals or not, or people. And if they answer those questions in such a way that gives the professional psychologist pause, or it makes them have concern, they'll shock the shit out of them. And then they'll bring them back to normal society when all that's said and done. So, yeah. Get some yonder, as they say down here. Mainline Mitch, you and everybody else. I know I have. I dated a witch whose mother was a Santeria priestess. Good googly moogly. Do not recommend. It took me years to find the spiritual relief in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. So I'm glad that you did find that, Mitch. Yeah, you can't buy sunscreen at 4 a.m. Thank you, Chris Beard. Let me tell you something. These vampire kids, that's why they're sitting in Stony Lonesome right now, because they're rank idiots. How's he going to transform this girl at the most inopportune time for a vampire to even be anywhere around? I mean, the sun coming up, wouldn't it burn the shit out of him? Even old Schnoblin, when he said he made his transformation, he had an aversion to sunlight. So, Stephen Montgomery, I do appreciate that, though. The night's going well. And to keep it tradition, we have Mainline Mitch, Vault of Nightmares, Sister Cat, Chris Beard, Stephen Montgomery, Steve Wolf, the one, the only, the great Steve Wolf, Jason Brossard, the man, Romans 1:16 blessed, who I found out was a lady, and of course, last but not least, Mr. G Reaper. Wunderbar. So, folks, I'm going to make some videos of these, and it's going to culminate with, hello, Stephanie Lopez. Hey, it's the new lady, Stephanie Lopez. She came in last night. Welcome back. So, folks, that's just a little tidbit of what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to record some stuff because I like to, you know, edit things and put cool music on it, make it kind of ooky spooky. So, don't forget Walmart was 24 hours back then. That's true. Walmart was 24 hours back then. But who would you like me to see? What cult or cult leader, cult leader would you like me to cover? Throw it in the chat and leave it in the comments after this show down there. And I'll get it done for you. Because we're going to do deep dives into these people. And I'm going to show you those interconnecting threads that weave all the way through to the Church of the Process. And I've already given you a little bit of hint. Oh, shit. Anyways. Got me 1 foot off the merry-go-round there, sister. What was I saying? Yeah, the folks who's leaving the description or leaving the comment section below, what cult and cult leader do you want? Myself, Maryland 187, and I believe we're going to have a few people jump in on this. Who would you want us to cover? So anyways, I'll personally pick Jim Jones. I've already done a little bit of something on him, which means I'm just going to recycle that and give you and expand upon it. And there was a gentleman over in Japan. Pardon me, folks. There's a gentleman over in Japan that had some sort of a cult, and he claimed to be Jesus, I believe. And they killed a lot of people in a subway or something like that. It was crazy. So, Let's see. I believe. All right, that's it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us on this edition of The Late Show. I, of course, am your host with the most, the Baron of Bigfoot, the Crown Prince of Brown Springs, Decimus Duralius Maximus Doss, also known as D. And I'll tell you what, I love you guys. Y'all are great. Y'all are a fantastic audience, better than I deserve. I'd like to thank everybody who contributed to the channel. If you would like to contribute to the channel, we're starting field investigations again. And it'd be greatly appreciated if you can't completely understand. What you can do, though, is click the like button, hit the subscribe button, and click the bell so you can stay up on all new content that's coming out. For those who would like to contribute, I'll throw a link in the chat with you, and there'll be one in the description box. And join us tomorrow night, where we will jump into another one of these weird sons of guns. Who would you like to see tomorrow night? What cult leader should I do? I know the one. Old Applewhite, when they jumped on that Hellbot comic. Remember that? What was it? Something Applewhite? He had those big googly eyes. Some of my older folks helped me out. There was an old black and white actor. He was a black guy named Mantan Moreland. And he was always in these ghost movies. He always have like bit parts in ghost movies and monster movies. Whenever he'd see the monster, he'd be like, and his eyes would bug out of his head. And there's a ghost in there. It was a pretty racist character now I think about it, but it was awesome. I don't care. Racism is kind of funny sometimes. I'll be the first to tell you. Now, if it's just, they're snarling out the mouth and slobbering and wearing Ku Klux Klan shirts that says the original boys in the hood, that's a little much, but once you hear the term moon cricket, you'll understand what I'm saying. Look at all that. I mean, even though I'm a ghost of Christmas past, you can still see that gray in my beard. It's weird. It's the only place I have it. Not that adds to a hill of beans. Just thought I'd point it out because I have to look at myself. Main reason I don't have my camera on most of the time, but because you guys asked me to, per your request. Marshall Applewhite. Thank you, Steve Wolf, with the assist. So again, folks, contribute, hit the like, subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bell so you can stay up on all the new content. Thank you for everybody who checked out it was not the latest episode. It's the revised episode of the first episode of the Cryptid Hunters. And I did that because guess what? Tomorrow night, you're going to get the sequel, episode 2. It's only a week late. It's supposed to be this week, but it's a week and a day. There was a holiday this past week, somewhere on Earth. Thank you, folks. God bless y'all, and I'll see y'all tomorrow night.
Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil.
Let every soul be subject to a higher power, but there is no power but that of God!